She stepped off the last bus before dawn with $37 and nowhere left to run. 3 men cornered her in the fog. Then he walked out of the trees, black leather, amber eyes, a motorcycle behind him, and said one word that sent them running. She begged him to take her on the bike. He warned her his world was not a place she could leave. She told him she did not care. So he marked her throat with his teeth and whispered the only vow he had ever sworn. Mine. No one touches you now. Only me. Welcome to our channel. Tell us where you're listening from today. The last bus before dawn hissed to a stop at the edge of Hemlock Hollow, and the only passenger left on it pressed her forehead against the cold window before she made herself stand. Her name was Wren Avery, and she had $37 in her pocket, a backpack that smelled like a gas station, and absolutely nowhere to go. The driver looked at her in the rearview mirror with the kind of pity that made her face burn. "End of the line, miss," he said gently. Wren mumbled a thank you that came out cracked and stepped down into a town that did not exist on most maps. The air hit her like a wall, pine, wet earth, wood smoke, and something underneath she could not name. Hemlock Hollow was nothing more than one main street pressed between 2 black walls of forest, mountain ridges rising behind the trees, a single antique street lamp still lit from the night, a closed diner, a gas station that had given up on its own existence, and heavy ground fog rolling slow and silver between the empty storefronts. The first golden seam of sunrise was just breaking over the pines. She had spent 3 days running from a man her mother had married when she was 12, a man who had found her again in Sacramento. She had ridden the first long-distance bus that did not require identification all the way to its very last stop. And now there was no more bus, no more road, and no more plan. She did not hear them come. 1 second she was alone on the misted asphalt, and the next there were 3 of them around her in a loose half-circle, men in stained jackets who had come out of an alley between the diner and the hardware store. The one in the middle smiled at her without any warmth at all. "Lost, sweetheart." Wren took a step back. Her shoulders hit the pole of the street lamp. "Just passing through," she said, hating how small her voice sounded. "Long way to be passing through. Last bus already gone." He took another step. Her hand closed around the only thing in her pocket, a cheap plastic pen, and she understood with a sick clarity that a pen was not going to be enough. The growl came from behind the men. It was lower than a dog's and older, and it crawled up the back of her neck like cold water. The 3 froze. From the seam where the fog met the dark of the trees, a man stepped forward. He was tall, broad through the shoulders, and the first thing she registered was the worn black leather biker jacket open over a fitted dark grey Henley. The second was the faint dark ink of a tattoo running down one forearm where his sleeve was pushed up, and the third was the old Cafe Racer motorcycle parked on the shoulder behind him, matte black tank, chrome catching the first light. His hair was black and a little too long, 2 days of stubble, fingerless leather gloves, and his eyes, when they caught the rising sun, were not the color any human eye had a right to be, amber, lit from somewhere behind, like candlelight caught inside honey. "Walk away," he said, quiet. It carried anyway. "She is standing in my town. That makes her my business. Walk away. I will not say it again." It happened fast. A blur of leather. A sound that was not a punch, but felt like one. The middle man on the ground without seeming to have fallen. The other 2 backing up, then turning, then running into the fog. The amber-eyed man did not chase them. He just stood there with that terrible calm, watching them go. When he finally turned to her, her legs were shaking so hard the pole rattled against her belt. "You are hurt," he said. "Not a question. Easy. You are safe. They are not coming back. What is your name?" "Wren." He repeated it silently, like he was tasting it. "Callum. Callum Blackwood. There is no inn in this town, Wren. No rental. The diner closes at 6. Do you understand what I am telling you? She nodded. She had been understanding it before he showed up. She straightened her spine. Take me with you, she said. Her eyes flicked, almost without her permission, past his shoulder to the matte black motorcycle behind him. Take me on the bike. I do not care where. I will hold on, just away from this road. His whole body went still. No. Please. She hated how it came out. I will work. I will clean. I will sleep on a floor, just until morning. Wren. His voice had gone almost gentle, and that was somehow worse. You do not know what I am. I do not care. You should. He looked at her for a long moment, and she watched something old and tired move across his face. If you climb on the back of my bike tonight, if you cross into the part of this town that is mine, you do not get to walk back out and pretend you never saw it. My world is not a place you visit. People who see it stay in it. I have nowhere to go, she said. The thing I was running from is 3 days behind me. I'm not asking to visit. I'm asking for a door that locks. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, the amber in them was burning, low and steady. There is no room in my house the way you are asking. I do not take in strangers. The only door that opens in my house is the door for a wife. She thought about $37. She thought about a door that locks. She thought about how the fog was thick enough now that the closed diner had disappeared. Then take me as a wife, she said. The silence that came after was the loudest thing she had ever heard. He stared at her like she had reached into his chest and rearranged something. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I am saying, she said, and to her horror, she was crying now. I would rather belong to a stranger with kind eyes than be alone on this road one more night, whatever the door is. Yes. He crossed the last step between them, so fast she did not see it. His hand came up, very slowly, and cupped the side of her face. Wren Avery, he said, and her name in his mouth sounded like a vow. Tell me to stop. She did not tell him to stop. He bent his head. She felt his breath warm against her throat, and then his lips, soft, pressed to the place where her pulse was hammering. I am sorry, he whispered. I am sorry. And then he bit, sharp, exact, over before her body had even decided to flinch, and what came after was a heat that poured down through her collarbone, settled in her chest, and began, very quietly, to glow. Wren made a small sound. Her knees gave. Callum caught her against him. Mine, he said into her hair, almost a prayer. No one touches you now, only me. I swear it on every breath I have left. She did not faint. She wanted to. The world tilted and steadied and tilted again, and she felt him lift her, gently, like something precious, and felt the cold leather of the bike seat under her, and felt his solid back in front of her, and felt his hand close her arms around his waist before he started the engine. The last thing she remembered before the dark came up to meet her was the low, rolling thunder of the motor, the smell of leather and pine and wood smoke, his amber eyes catching hers once over his shoulder to make sure she was holding on, and the long mountain road peeling away beneath them into the rising sun. When Wren opened her eyes again, she was not on the road anymore. She was in a bed. The ceiling above her was wood, dark beams of it, and a fire was burning close enough that she could feel the orange glow on her face. Her hand went to her throat before she had fully decided to move. The skin there was hot, not painful. Hot the way a banked coal is hot, and under the hot place something was beating that was not her heart. Wren sat up slowly. A fire in a stone hearth, a low table with a kettle, a chair pulled close to the bed, where Callum sat watching her with his elbows on his knees, looking like a man who had not moved in hours. He had changed his shirt. He was wearing a plain grey sweater. His amber eyes were dimmer now, almost ordinary, almost. "Drink this," he said. He nudged a mug across the table toward her. "Honey water. Your body is going to want sugar." Wren took the mug. Her hand was steady. That surprised her. "How long was I out?" 3 hours. "Where am I?" "My house. Edge of the Packlands, about 4 miles into the trees from where I found you." "And the mark?" Her free hand drifted back up to her throat. "It is sealing. By morning the pain will be gone, and the skin will look like a small old burn that has been there for years. Anyone who looks at you will know." "Know what?" He met her eyes. "That you belong to me, that you are claimed, that if anyone touches you with a word they should not say, every wolf in 100 miles will smell my mark on you and step back. That is what the bite does." She set the mug down. "Wolves. Yes. Like actual. Yes. And you. Yes." She breathed in. She breathed out. She had asked for the door. She did not get to be surprised now that the door had a different shape than she had pictured. "Show me," she said. He blinked. "Wren. I am not going to faint. I already fainted once today. Show me." He held one hand out across the table, palm up. The skin of his palm rippled, the bones lengthened by a fraction, and 4 black claws slid out where his nails had been. They retracted as smoothly as they had come. "That is the smallest thing I can show you. It is not a parlor trick. I do not enjoy doing it." "I know," she said. She did not know how she knew. She just did. "Why did you stop on that road this morning?" she asked. "You could have ridden past." "You could have let them have me." His face went very still. "No, I could not have. I knew what you were the second the wind shifted." "What am I?" "Mine," he said. "And before you said it, before I bit you, the wolf in me knew. We call it the mate bond. It is rare. Most of us live our whole lives without finding it. I did not look for it. I did not believe in it. And then a bus stopped at the end of the line, and a woman with a backpack stepped out into the fog, and every part of me that has ever been confused stopped being confused." She stared at him. "That is a lot. Yes. I just wanted a door that locks. I know. I did not sign up for fate. I know that too." His mouth did the not-quite smile. "Wren, you can leave. The bond is sealed, but I will not hold you. If in the morning you want me to put you on the back of the bike again, and ride you to the next town, and put you on a bus, I will do it. I will not like it. I will not survive it well. But I will do it. Do you hear me?" She heard him. She finished the honey water. She drew her knees up under the blanket. "I'm not going anywhere today," she said. "Tomorrow we can talk about tomorrow." Something in his shoulders dropped. "Sleep. I will be in the next room. The door does not have a lock on this side. I am sorry, but I swear to you no one comes through that door but me, and I do not come through it unless you call." "Callum." He stopped at the doorway. "Thank you." He nodded once and pulled the door shut very softly. The fire popped. The mark on her throat hummed like a small sleeping animal. And against every reasonable expectation, she slept. She woke because something in her chest, the warm place where the mark had settled, was being tugged on, like a string had been threaded through her sternum, and someone, somewhere, was pulling it gently. She got out of the bed. The room was grey with early light. She crossed to the window in her bare feet and pulled the curtain aside. Wren stopped breathing. The clearing in front of the house was full of wolves, more than a dozen. They were sitting on the frosted grass in a loose half-circle facing the porch, perfectly still, their breath rising in white plumes. They were enormous, larger than any dog she had ever seen, and they were all looking, every single one of them, at her window. The biggest of them, a black one with a faint silver streak down its muzzle, was sitting closest to the porch. Its amber eyes met hers through the glass. And every other wolf in the clearing, as if at a signal she had not heard, lowered its great head to the ground in front of her at exactly the same moment. Wren let the curtain fall. She put her hand over her mouth. She walked, very calmly, on legs that did not feel like legs, to the bedroom door. Callum was already in the hallway. "I was about to come and warn you. They came earlier than I thought." "Who?" "All of them. My pack. What is left of it. 14 of us. They came to see you." "Why are they on the ground?" "Because you are their Luna now. The mark they are smelling on you came from me. They are paying respect. They will get up when you tell them to." "I do not know how to tell them to." "Open the door. Step out onto the porch. They will know what to do." She walked. He followed at a distance, not crowding. She unlatched the heavy front door. She stepped out. Up close, the wolves were even bigger. The big black one with the silver streak was less than 10 feet from the steps. Its eyes were Callum's eyes. She wrapped her arms around herself in the cold. What came out of her was not a command. "Please get up," she said. "It is freezing out here, please." For a heartbeat nothing moved. Then the big black wolf lifted its head, and one by one every wolf rose to its feet. The sound of so many large bodies moving at once should have been loud. It was almost silent. The big black wolf walked forward and climbed the porch steps. It stopped a foot in front of her. It lowered its head until its forehead touched very lightly the front of her sweater, just over her sternum. It held there for one long breath. Then it stepped back, turned and trotted off the porch. "That was Rhett," Callum said. "My second cousin. Closest thing to a brother I have. He just told the rest of them you are real." The pack came inside in pairs and threes, in human form by the time they crossed the porch. They wore plain clothes. They looked like a family. They looked mostly tired. Callum introduced her by title. "This is my mate," he said each time simply. "Wren. She has chosen us." Each of them met her eyes and pressed a fist briefly to their own chest and said, "Luna." It was a small, weary, hopeful thing. There was Rhett, big and quiet and watchful. There was an older woman named Nessa, grey at her temples, who hugged Wren without asking and smelled like rosemary. There was a boy of maybe 17 named Jory, who kept stealing glances. And there was Harlow. Harlow was the beta, tall, sharp, beautiful, in the way a knife is beautiful, with cropped sandy hair and grey eyes that did not warm when they landed on Wren. She did not put a fist to her chest. She inclined her head, the smallest possible movement. "Luna," she said. The word in her mouth was a stone dropped into water. "Welcome to Blackwood Hollow," she said, and walked past Wren into the kitchen. Callum exhaled. "I am sorry." "Do not be," Wren said. "She's grieving something. I can see it." His head turned sharply. "Yes, she is." "Whose mate did she lose?" She did not know where the question came from. It just arrived. "Her brother," he said quietly. 7 years ago. The same night I lost my father. The same night this pack stopped being what it was. I'm sorry. So am I. Every day. Breakfast was eggs and dark bread and venison sausage. Wren sat at Callum's right hand. Nessa kept refilling her plate. Rhett spoke to her exactly twice in a voice so deep it rattled the windows. Harlow did not speak to her at all. By the time the kitchen was empty, it was almost noon, and Wren felt scoured out. Callum walked her back to the bedroom. "Sleep. The house is yours. I will be in the front room." "Callum, thank you for not pretending this is normal." His mouth tilted. "None of this is normal. The only thing that is even a little normal is that I would walk into any room you were in for the rest of my life. Sleep." She slept. When she woke, it was dusk. She heard low voices through the kitchen wall, his and Rhett's, and then she heard them go quiet at the same time, the way men go quiet when they have seen something they do not want a woman to walk in on. Wren walked into the kitchen anyway. The two men were standing at the back door. On the porch step, set carefully, was a bundle wrapped in oiled cloth. Rhett's jaw was tight. Callum's amber eyes had gone very dark. Wren walked past them before either could stop her. She crouched. She unwrapped the cloth. Inside it, neat as a butcher's gift, lay the severed paw of a wolf. And tucked underneath, written in a steady hand on a strip of pale bark, were 3 words. The Luna dies. Callum was beside her before she finished reading. He did not snatch the bark away. He let her hold it. "Who?" she said. Her voice was steady. "I do not know yet, but I'm going to find out. Rhett." "Already on it," Rhett said. He picked up the wrapped paw with hands that were gentle and carried it off the porch into the trees. Callum took the bark from her fingers. "Wren, look at me." She looked. His amber eyes were burning low and steady and absolutely furious, but the fury was not pointed at her. "I told you my world is not safe. I am telling you again, you can still leave." She put her hand flat against his chest. The mark on her throat hummed. "I have spent my whole life having people tell me I cannot survive things. They were always wrong." She felt the moment something in him gave. He covered her hand with his own. "Tell me about the rogues. There are wolves who do not live in packs. The ones to be afraid of are the ones who find each other. There is a man named Silas Vance who has been collecting them for about 10 years. He does not have a Luna. He cannot have one. The mate bond does not happen on command. So he has decided instead to take Lunas, to break them and use the bond to leverage their packs into surrender. He has done it twice already in the last decade, to small packs along the coast. The packs both went under within a year. My father was the one who pushed back the first time. Silas has not forgotten that. And now there is a Luna here, for the first time in a long time. Yes, me, yes. He wants to make me a message," Callum corrected. "Wren, I will not let him. The pack will not let him. But I'm not going to lie to you about what we are sitting inside of." "Good. Do not lie to me. Ever. Especially when it is bad." "I swear it, on every breath I have." That night she could not sleep. The pull was tugging again, not toward Callum this time, toward the trees, toward the north, deeper into the forest. Patient, steady. It would not let her sleep. She got up, wrapped herself in a wool blanket, walked barefoot to the doorway. Callum was sitting in the chair in the front room, reading by the fire. He looked up the second her shadow crossed the threshold. "I need to walk. Just to the edge of the trees." He stood up without asking why. He fetched his coat and her boots and a heavier blanket. He stayed half a step behind her. He let her lead. She walked until the house was a yellow square in the dark. Then she stopped, because the pulling had stopped. The string in her sternum had gone still, the way a compass needle goes still when it has finally found north. And then she heard it. A howl, long and low, and so distant it should not have been audible, coming from somewhere far north. It rose and held and broke at the end into something almost a question, and Wren felt it not in her ears, but in the marked place on her throat. And the marked place answered, a small, involuntary heat. She put her hand over the mark. She was crying. "Callum." What was that? There was a long silence. When he spoke, his voice was very careful. "Wren, has anyone in your life ever told you anything about your mother?" "My birth mother. No, she gave me up at the hospital. There was a name on the relinquishment paper, just a first name, Leona, that was all." She turned to look at him. The amber in his eyes was so bright it lit the snow at his feet. "Leona Hartwell," he said quietly, "was the Luna of the Hartwell pack." They lived in the high country 100 miles north of here. They were destroyed 30 years ago in a fire that everyone said was accidental and almost no one believed was. Their Luna's body was never found. There was a story among the old wolves that she had been pregnant. There was a story that she had run. His amber eyes did not leave her face. Wren, the howl you just heard came from the place where the Hartwell pack used to live. And you heard it because something in you was listening for it. The mark only carries what is already in you. It does not give you anything you did not already own. She stared at him. The mark on her throat throbbed once, sharply, like a heart that had just been told its own name. What am I? You are not what anyone has ever told you you were. You are not a girl who got off a bus. You are a Luna who came home. They walked back through the trees in silence. Wren's hand was tucked into the bend of Callum's elbow. He sat her in the chair by the fire and brought her a fresh mug, then sat across from her on the floor, his back against the hearthstones. "Tell me about your father," she said. "His name was Aaron Blackwood. He was the Alpha here for 43 years. He was the kindest man I have ever known. He taught me that the strongest thing an Alpha could do was kneel. I did not understand what he meant when he said it. I was 22, and I thought I knew everything. He used to read aloud to my mother. After my mother died, he kept reading to the empty chair. He said sorrow was not a thing to be hidden from. He said the only way out of grief was through the middle of it. He sounds like a good man. He was the best man. 7 years ago, Silas Vance came across our border with 20 rogues. They came at night. They came for the children. My father knew first. He was old by then. He went out to the eastern line alone because he did not want to wake the rest of us until he was sure. By the time the rest of us got there, the children were safe, and my father was not. He had bought the time for everyone else to get up and into position. We pushed Silas back. He took my father with him." He stopped. The fire popped. "We never got him back. Silas hung what was left of him on a tree at the edge of our territory 2 weeks later. Harlow's brother went after him alone, against my orders. I was Alpha by then. I had been Alpha for 16 days, and her brother did not obey it. We never got him back either." Wren was crying again. She slid off the chair and onto the floor in front of him, and took his face in both her hands. He let her. The amber in his eyes was wet. "Callum Blackwood, listen to me. Whatever Harlow thinks, whatever you think, you did not kill him. Silas killed him. Your father did not die because you were not enough. He died because he was a man who chose to stand in front of children. Do you hear me? Wren, do you hear me?" "Yes," he whispered. "Yes. I will say it as many times as you need." She brushed her thumb across the wet under his eye. True love does not run from the broken parts of a person. It puts its hands on them and stays. Family is not who gives you blood. It is who stays. He closed his eyes. He turned his face into her palm. When he opened his eyes again, they were almost the color of dark honey, and he looked at her the way a man looks at the only thing left in a burning house worth carrying out. "Where did you come from?" From a bus," she said, surprised to hear herself laugh. He laughed too, a small broken sound. That was the night the bond settled into the place it would live in her for the rest of her life. She fell asleep with her cheek against his shoulder by the fire, and when she woke up she was back in the bed, and the chair was empty, but the seat was still warm. In the morning, the world had changed. She felt it before she opened her eyes. The pull in her sternum had a direction now, and the direction was Callum. She came out of the bedroom in his wool sweater, and he turned with a mug already in his hand for her. "It opened," he said. "Yes, last night, while you slept. Some Lunas never get the bond all the way. Some only get the bite. You got the bite and the bond on the first night." The day broke in pieces. Rhett came at dawn with news that the tracks had circled twice and gone. Nessa came at mid-morning with a basket of bread. Jory came at noon with 2 of the youngest pack children behind him. Wren sat on the porch step and let them touch the mark on her throat with their small, careful fingers. The older one, a girl, said in a hushed voice, "It is warm." The younger one, a boy, said, "It smells like home." Wren did not have a single word for what that did to her. It was late afternoon when the alarm came. Wren was helping Nessa fold linens when she felt the pull in her sternum yank sharply toward the southwest. Callum was already moving, already calling for Rhett, already pulling on his coat. He is at the line, he is alone, which means he came to talk. "Wren, you are staying here." "No." He stopped. His amber eyes had gone hard. "Wren." "I am the Luna. He came because of me. He does not get to talk about me without me in the room. I will stand behind you. I will not say a single word unless you ask me to, but I am going, because if I do not go, every wolf in this pack will know that the Luna hid the first time the trouble came." Callum stared at her for a long moment. Then his mouth tilted into the not-quite smile, and he held out his hand. They walked to the southwest line. The trees thinned. The line was an old creek bed, dry, full of pale stones. And on the far side of it, alone, with his hands open at his sides, stood a tall, lean man in a long, dark coat. His hair was the color of iron. His eyes were the color of nothing. He was looking past Callum. He was looking at Wren. "Hello, daughter of Leona," said Silas Vance. "I have been looking for you for 30 years. Wren did not flinch. That surprised her almost as much as it must have surprised Silas. Callum's hand was still wrapped around hers. She could feel the bond between them humming. "You are not welcome on this line, Vance," Callum said. "I came to talk. You came to look at her. Now you can leave." "Aaron Blackwood's son has his father's manners," Silas said. The smile was a thing that had been practiced. "I came to make an offer. To her, not to you. Let her decide." His pale eyes shifted to Wren. "You were stolen from your birthright. Your mother was a Luna of the high country, the last of a bloodline that ruled this corner of the mountains for 300 years. She ran when her pack was taken from her. She gave you to humans because she thought it would keep you safe. It did not keep her safe. It will not keep you safe either, not with this little pack of 14, not with this alpha who could not save his own father. Come with me. I have 80 wolves. I will give you back what was taken from you." Wren felt Callum's hand go still in hers. She lifted her chin. "You know what is interesting. You think being stolen is the worst thing that could happen to a person. It is not. The worst thing is being told by people who claim to know better than you who you are supposed to be. I do not know my mother. I would have liked to. But she did not give me to humans because she was confused. She gave me to humans because she chose to. And I was not stolen. I was loved by exactly the right amount of people, which was not many, but it was enough. And then a bus brought me here, and the man whose hand I'm holding did not save me because he wanted a Luna. He saved me because he could not stand to watch me hurt. That is the offer that already got made. Yours is late, and it is not better." She paused. "Go home, Mr. Vance. There is nothing on this side of the creek for you." The smile slid off his face like wet paint. What was underneath was much older and much quieter, and not, she realized with a small, clear shock, particularly angry. He was a man given to patience. That was much worse. "As you like. I will be in the mountains, Luna, when you change your mind." "She will not. We will see." He turned, and the trees took him. Callum did not move for a long minute. Then he turned to her. "I am very glad you did not listen to me." She laughed shakily. He pulled her into his chest and held her there, and she felt his heart hammering against her cheek, and for the first time she understood that he had been afraid. Not of Silas. of losing her in the middle of a sentence. They walked back in the dusk. By the time they came into the yard, only Harlow was waiting on the porch, arms crossed, grey eyes unreadable. "Harlow," Callum said. "Alpha." Harlow was looking at Wren. "You stood on the line." "Yes." "And you sent him home." "Yes." "Good," said Harlow. The word was clipped, but it was the first thing she had said directly to Wren that was not a stone. Harlow stayed for dinner. She watched. Wren caught her twice, looking at the mark on Wren's throat with an expression closer to grief than hostility. Harlow had loved a brother who had died for this pack. Harlow had spent 7 years watching her Alpha grieve and refuse to take a Luna and refuse in any way to live. And now a stranger had walked off a bus and undone it in a single night. Harlow was not angry at Wren. Harlow did not know yet whether she was allowed to hope. After dinner, Wren went to her in the kitchen. "Harlow, my name is Wren. When we are alone, you can use it. I would like you to." Harlow's hands stilled in the water. "I am not good at this. I am not asking you to be good at it. I am asking you to let me try." Harlow nodded once. It was small. It was real. It was Harlow who found her on the kitchen floor an hour later. Wren had reached for the kettle, and the room had tilted, and the floor had come up gently to meet her. And her last clear thought before the blackness was that the tea Nessa had brewed at mid-morning, the one Wren had been sipping all afternoon, had not tasted right. She heard Harlow's voice break. She heard Callum's name being shouted. She felt his hands under her, lifting her, and she heard him say, in a voice that was not human anymore, Who did this?" The mark on her throat was burning. A real burn. As if something in the bond was fighting something in her blood and losing. Her eyes rolled back. The last thing she heard was Harlow, fierce and steady, saying, "Get her to Nessa. I will find who did it. I will find who did it tonight." The fever broke on the second day. Wren came back to herself in pieces. The smell of herbs Nessa was burning, the rough warmth of a hand wrapped around her own. She turned her head, slowly, and Callum was there, sitting in the chair pulled flush against the bed. He had not shaved. His eyes were red. He pressed her hand to his mouth and breathed her name into her palm like a prayer. "How long?" she whispered. 2 days. Nessa thought we were going to lose you on the first night. The mark held. The bond held. You held. Who? Wolfsbane in the tea jar. Someone replaced the jar. Harlow has been hunting since you went down. He paused. Wren. Something happened on the first night. The mark. She lifted her free hand to her throat. It was glowing, not the bond glow, a different glow, silver. Nessa says it is the Luna gift waking up. The Hartwell line carried a healing glow that had not been seen in 3 generations. I think your body remembered what it was before your mind did. She let that sit in her chest. Then it was not the bite that saved me. It was the blood, mine and yours together. Yes. Nessa came in then with a bowl of broth and a fierce smile, and fed Wren 3 slow spoonfuls and said, "Welcome back, Luna," in a voice that wobbled, and then she walked out of the room before Wren could see her cry. Callum waited until the door closed. He laid his forehead against the back of Wren's hand. "I am going to tell you something, and I am only going to tell you once, because if I have to say it twice, I will not survive saying it. I sat next to you for 2 days, and I prayed. I have not prayed in 7 years. I prayed to my father. I prayed to your mother. I prayed to whatever is left in this world that listens. I told them they could take any other thing they wanted, but not you, not you. And whatever heard me, because here you are. So I want to say this while I still have the courage. I love you. I have loved you since the second the wind shifted in the road. I will love you when I am old. I will love you if you tell me to be quiet and never say it again. I just needed you to know it once, out loud, with your eyes open." She was crying. She had not known she could cry while still this tired. "Callum, it is all right. Callum, look at me." He looked up. His amber eyes were ruined and steady. "I love you," she said. "I love you. I love you. I will say it as many times as you need." The bond between them sang. The room itself seemed to hum, and the mark on her throat warmed, and Callum's eyes fluttered shut, and he made a small sound, like a man who had been carrying something heavy and had finally been allowed to set it down. The next time she woke, the fever was gone. She felt thin and clean and a little new, like a knife that had been sharpened. The mark on her throat was, if she looked at it directly in the mirror, faintly silver under the skin. "It is the Luna mark," Nessa said. "Now, not just the bite. The bite was Callum claiming you. The silver is you claiming yourself. The Luna gift is not a sword. It is a hearth. It is a thing that warms. It is a thing that mends. The wolves will know. They are already coming." They were already coming. The whole pack was filing back onto the porch, every adult. They saw her. They put their right hands flat over their own hearts. Even Harlow, especially Harlow. Wren saw 14 people look at her at the same time and decide openly in front of each other that she was theirs to keep. That afternoon Harlow came to her alone. It was Esme Tate. She lives on the western edge. She lost her brother 7 years ago, the same night I lost mine. She has been quiet for 7 years. She is the one who switched the tea jar. Why? Silas Vance reached out to her 3 months ago through a runner. He told her if a Luna ever came to this pack would be marked for destruction. He told her if she got rid of the Luna before the bond sealed, she could save us. The bond had already sealed. She thought she was protecting us. She thought she was finishing what her brother had started. Harlow's voice caught. "I do not forgive her. I am the Beta, and I do not forgive what was done to you. But I understand it, and I am asking you, as my Luna, to decide what is done about her, because if I decide, I will decide it with my hands, and I will not sleep again." Wren was quiet for a long moment. "Bring her to me, and Harlow, the mark on my throat. It is silver now, look." Harlow looked. Her grey eyes widened, and then, for the first time since Wren had met her, Harlow Marsh smiled. Esme Tate was 41 years old. She had small hands and tired eyes, and a wedding band she had never taken off. She was brought into Callum's front room with Rhett at one elbow and Nessa at the other, and she did not lift her head when Wren came in. The whole pack was outside on the porch, listening through the open windows. That had been Wren's choice. She did not want this done in secret. "Esme, look at me, please." Esme looked up. Her face was a wreck. "I do not hate you," Wren said quietly. "I have been unloved by people who hated me, and I have been hurt by people who only thought they were saving me. And the people who only thought they were saving me hurt me worse. So I know the difference. You poisoned me because you believed someone who told you a story that fit the shape of your grief. That is what Silas does. He finds people whose hearts are open like wounds and pours rot into them and calls it medicine. He used you. He did not invent you." Esme made a small broken sound. "I would like you to do 3 things. First, tell the whole pack what you did, on the porch, out loud, in front of everyone, not as punishment, as a returning. Secrets in a pack are how a pack dies. Second, you will work with Nessa for 1 year. You will be the one who makes my tea, every day, every cup. You will hand it to me yourself. We will rebuild trust, the only way trust is ever rebuilt, which is slowly. Third, when I ask you what your brother loved, you will tell me, and we will plant something in this hollow that bears his name, and every spring you and I will tend it together. Can you do those 3 things?" Esme was crying without sound. "Luna, yes, yes. Then it is done." Wren put her hand briefly on the crown of Esme's bowed head, and the silver in her mark warmed under the skin, and Esme drew a long, shaking breath and stopped trembling. That night in bed, Callum lay on his back with his arm under her head. You did not have to be merciful. I did, though, because the alternative was to teach this pack that the Luna is the one who hurts. I am not going to be the one who hurts. There are already enough of those in the world. He turned and looked at her. Wren Avery, if anyone ever tells you again that you are small, I will not be polite about it. She laughed. The training began the next morning. Nessa walked her every morning into the small clearing behind the house, and they worked. Not on shifting. Lunas of the Hartwell line had not always shifted. The gift in their blood was older than shape. It was a gift of mending. Wren learned to find the warmth in her sternum and pull it up through her hands. She learned that the warmth answered when she was steady and disappeared when she was afraid. She learned to put her hand on Jory's bruised wrist and feel the heat go out of her palm into him, and watch the bruise fade an hour later instead of a week. She learned that it cost her. The gift takes, Nessa said. It is part of what makes it precious. Callum trained her too, in the evenings, but not on the gift, on standing, on voice. An alpha leads with weight. A Luna leads with quiet. The pack will hear you in a whisper if you mean it. They will not hear you in a shout if you do not. She practiced. She got better. By the end of 2 weeks, when she walked into a room, they did the small instinctive thing of turning toward her without thinking, the way plants turn toward a window. Her senses sharpened. She could smell rain coming an hour before it arrived. One night she stood in the kitchen with her hands in dishwater and felt the breath of every wolf in the pack at the same time. 14 separate slow tides, and she did not panic. This was what it was to be a Luna. Not a queen, a center. The first partial shift came on the 18th day. She closed her eyes. She found, behind her ribs, a creature she had never met. Smaller than she had expected, sleeker, the color of dark honey. It was not afraid of her. It had been waiting. Wren reached toward it, and her own hands lengthened. Her nails went black and curved. It was not painful. It was like stretching after a long sleep. She opened her eyes. Her hands were a Luna's hands, halfway. The shift settled back. Nessa beside her was wiping tears off her face. There she is, there you are. That night, Wren went to bed exhausted in the deep good way. She woke at 3 with the bond yanking, hard, in a direction that was not the bedroom door. The bond was reaching for Harlow. Wren sat up in the dark. The bond between Luna and Beta was thinner than the bond with a mate. It was real, and it was being dragged. Callum. He was in the room before she finished saying his name. Harlow. She went out tonight. She told me she was going to walk the Southwest line alone. I know. Callum. They have her. The pack moved before the sun came up. Silas took her to draw us across the line, Callum said. He wants us in his territory. We are not going to give him that. Rhett and 3 others go southwest with me on the obvious path. They will see us. We will let them. The rest of you go due south with the Luna and circle behind. Wren can find Harlow through the bond. When the second team has Harlow, the second team retreats, not the first. The first team holds Silas's eyes until we hear the call. He looked at Wren. Tell me you understand. I understand. Tell me you will run, not fight, the second she is out. I will. Wren, come back. You come back, she said. They split at the creek bed. Wren went south with Nessa and Jory and 4 others in absolute silence, and the bond pulled her like a cold wire through her sternum. The team trusted her. She felt them trusting her. It was a strange, heavy, beautiful thing. They found Harlow inside an old cattle barn at the foot of the mountain road, exactly where the bond pulled. There were 2 rogues outside. Nessa took one, Jory took the other. Both were down and tied before either could call out. Wren slid the barn door open. Harlow was on her side on the dirt floor, hands bound, a rough strip of cloth in her mouth. Her grey eyes flew open. They went huge. Wren crossed the barn in 4 steps. She knelt. She pulled the gag out gently. "I am here." "Luna, he has men everywhere. He is waiting for Callum. He set this up to—" "I know. We are not going to give him Callum. We are going to give him an empty barn." She got the rope loose. Wren put both her hands on Harlow's wrists and let the warmth come up through her palms, and the silver under her own skin glowed gently, and the bruises on Harlow's wrists faded by half. Harlow gasped. "Later! Walk!" They were 3 minutes out when Wren heard the first howl from the west. Callum's, the old call, "I am here, I am alive, I am drawing them." She did not break stride. They reached the creek bed at dawn. They crossed it. They were on home ground again. And then the bond went taut and tauter and slackened, the way a held breath slackens. Wren knew before she heard the howls coming back through the trees. Callum was alive. Callum was coming home. He came home with a slash across his ribs that would have killed a smaller man, and a calm look in his eyes that did not match the blood. He shifted back to human shape on the porch, and Nessa got to him before he could fall. Wren got to him second. He was a wreck, and he was grinning. "Sit," Wren said. He sat. She knelt in front of him. She put her hands on the slash across his ribs. The wound was deep. The bond between them roared. The silver under her mark blazed up so bright she could see it lighting the underside of her own jaw. Heat poured out of her palms into him, and the bleeding slowed, and the edges of the wound began to close, and Callum's eyes drifted shut, and his head tipped back against the wall, and he made a small sound that was almost a laugh. "Luna," Nessa breathed beside her. "Wren." The whole pack just felt that. Wren had not noticed. She had not had attention to spare. But when she looked up, the porch was full of pack members. They had not been called. They had felt the gift go out, and they had come, every one of them drawn by the same warmth Callum was being filled with. Even the children, even Esme hovering at the back, hands folded against her stomach, eyes wet. They had come because their Luna was burning bright in the dark, and they could feel the fire of her, even at their own hearths. Wren took her hands off Callum's ribs. The wound was a pink line, not a slash, a line. Callum opened his eyes. His amber eyes were the color of warmed honey. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she said. Her voice broke. "I love you," he said, right there, in front of all of them. "I love you," she said back. The pack made a sound, not a cheer, something older, something like a long collective exhale, like a held breath finally going out. That night, after the pack had gone home, Wren sat alone on the porch with a blanket around her shoulders. She thought, for the first time in her life, the words, "I am home," and she did not feel afraid of them. A small white envelope was on the porch step. She had not heard it arrive. She picked it up. Her name was on it in a steady hand. There were 2 lines. "Sundown tomorrow, the clearing where your mother died. Come alone, or I bring 80 wolves to your hollow. Choose." She did not show it to Callum that night. She slid the envelope under the loose board on the porch step and went to bed and lay against his sleeping bag. She got up before dawn, made tea, sat in the chair by the fire, and when Callum came out she handed him the envelope without a word. He read it. He folded it. "No, Callum, no. He does not get to ask. He does not get to set the hour. He does not get to use your mother to do it. I will go in your place. And then he marches 80 wolves into this hollow," she said, "and ends 14 of us. And the children. Callum, the children. He has waited 30 years. He is not bluffing. Then we leave, the whole pack. We pack up and we go north, and we let him have the hollow. I will not let this pack be moved off the land that holds your father's ashes because of me. Then what are you proposing? I am proposing that I go, and that you let me, and that you trust me to come back. He stared at her. No, listen to me. She got up. She put her hands on either side of his face. I am not going to fight him alone. I am going to walk into that clearing at sundown, and the second he is in front of me, you and Rhett and Harlow are going to come from the trees behind, because you will already be there. I am the bait. I am the only bait that will hold him still long enough. He likes the sound of his own voice. He will not move until he has finished saying what he came to say. That is the whole of his weakness. We are going to use that patience to put 3 wolves at his back. Callum closed his eyes. I hate this plan. I know. I will go along with it. I know. I love you. I know. His mouth tilted. You knew I would. I knew the second I asked. They left at noon. Wren went south on foot, alone, slowly, because she wanted to be seen. Callum and Rhett and Harlow went west and circled north. The clearing was a small, open space ringed by old, burned trees. The fire that had taken the Hartwell pack had taken these trees too. They had grown back wrong, charred and pale. Wren felt when she stepped into the clearing that she was standing in a place that had been waiting for her for 30 years. The mark warmed sharply. Something that was not a memory, but felt like one moved through her. A woman's voice she had never heard saying a single word, daughter, and then the voice was gone. Silas Vance came out of the trees on the far side. He was alone. He stopped 6 paces from her. You came. I came. I expected the Alpha. He is at home where I left him. Liar, he said pleasantly. He is in the trees north of us, with his beta, with his second. They have been there for an hour. You walk too steady for a woman who came alone. Wren did not answer. He laughed. Do not look stricken, Luna. I expected it. I am only telling you that I see it because I want you to know that whatever you are about to try will not work as you have planned it. I want to make you an offer. I will let your pack live, all of them. I will withdraw my 80 wolves to the high country and never raise a hand to this hollow again. You give me one thing in return. You walk back into those trees with me of your own choice. 1 year, in my territory. Then you decide. 1 year, Luna. For 14 lives. She looked at him. You are lying. I am not. You are. Because the second I cross that line with you, the bond between me and that man in the trees would slowly starve. He would not survive a year of it. You know that. You are counting on it. You think if you take me away long enough you can break what is between us. The bond does not break. Not by distance, not by time, not by you. The one thing I am absolutely sure of is that I am his and he is mine, and there is no clever thing you can say in a clearing that changes that. Silas's smile slid off his face. Then I am sorry, truly. I would have preferred the other way. He shifted. The change went through him fast, and a long, lean, pale wolf the color of old iron stood where the man had been. He turned and howled, and the trees behind him filled with the answering shapes of his pack. Not 80, maybe 20, but 20 was more than enough. Wren stood very still. The bond to Callum yanked. He was already moving. But the rogues were closer. She put her hand on the silver mark at her throat. She closed her eyes. Mother, if you are anywhere, be here. And she opened her eyes and did the thing no one had taught her. She let the warmth come up, not into her hands, out of her whole body. The silver under her skin lit up like a struck match, and the clearing flooded with light. The light was not a weapon. That was the strange thing. It did not burn. It did not knock the rogues back. It steadied them. It held them, the way a held hand holds a panicking child. The rogues at the edge of the clearing slowed. The ones who had begun to lunge stumbled. They simply stopped and lifted their heads as if they had heard something far off. Wren understood in the heart of the silver pouring out of her what the lunar gift had always been for. It was a hearth. It was a thing that warmed. And what it warmed, in this clearing, were the wolves of Silas Vance. They were a pack only on paper. They were stolen men, they were the lost, and the lunar gift was speaking to the part of them that had never stopped being lost. One of the rogues, the smallest, sat down in the snow. Then another, then a third. They did not look at Silas. They looked at her. They looked at her with the eyes of dogs who had not been spoken to kindly in years. That was the moment Callum came out of the trees behind Silas. He came in his wolf shape, black as a thrown stone, with the silver streak along his shoulder, lit by the gift she was pouring into the clearing. Rhett came out behind him. Harlow came out behind Rhett. The three of them did not have to fight 20 wolves. They had to fight one. Wren did not move. She kept the light pouring out of her, even though she could feel it costing her, even though her knees were beginning to shake. She held the light, because she could feel the rogues coming back to themselves inside it, and she would not be the Luna who let the hearth go out before the cold men were warm. The fight, when it came, was very short. Silas was strong. Silas was old. But Silas had been alone for 30 years, alone in the way that hollows a man, and Callum had a mate behind him and a pack at his shoulder, and a father in the ground who had taught him that the strongest thing an alpha could do was kneel. Callum did not kneel. He did the second strongest thing. He stood between Silas and Wren, and he did not let Silas pass. Wren did not watch the doing of it. She kept her eyes on the rogues. She kept the light steady. She heard, finally, silence. She heard Callum, in his human voice, low and tired, say her name. She let the light go. The dark came up to meet her. Callum had her before she touched the snow. She woke in her own bed. The silver mark was a thin, warm seam under her skin. Callum was asleep with his head on the pillow next to hers, his hand still wrapped around hers. The room smelled like rosemary. Wren turned her head. Callum's eyes opened immediately. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he said. "How long?" 4 days. "Silas?" "Gone. The rogues. Most of them are at our southern line right now. They have been asking very politely if our Luna would consider speaking to them. 16 of them. The 4 who would not stop are accounted for. The rest of them have not eaten properly in years. They are not a pack. They are the people he stole. They want a Luna." She closed her eyes. She thought about her mother. She thought about a hearth. "I will see them. When I can stand. I am not going to do this from a sickbed." Callum kissed her knuckles. "You do not have to take any of them in. I know. I will support you, whatever you decide. I know." She paused. "Callum, I think we are going to take some of them in. Not all. The ones who are willing to be taught. The ones who are willing to learn what a pack actually is. Not because we owe them anything, because the gift in my blood is a hearth, and a hearth that is not used goes out, and the pack we have left is 14, and the children. The children, Callum. We can become something, not the Hartwell pack, not the old Blackwood pack, a new thing, whoever we are now." He looked at her for a long time. The amber in his eyes was very wet. "You are going to be a great Luna." "I am already a Luna," she said. "I'm just going to be a tired one for a few weeks first." It took 6 weeks. Esme planted the first sapling for her brother in the meadow behind the house, and Harlow planted the second one beside it for hers, and Wren stood between the 2 women with a hand on each of their shoulders. 6 of Silas's stolen wolves stayed. 10 left, with provisions and blessings. The 6 who stayed worked. They did not pretend to be Blackwood. They did not pretend to be Hartwell. They were what the new pack was learning to call itself, which was, after some debate, simply Hollow Pack. Not a name, a shape, a place that holds a thing. On the night before the binding ceremony, Wren sat on the porch with Callum and watched the moon come up. It was almost full. He was holding her hand. "Wren Avery, do you remember what you said to me in the road? You said you would rather belong to a stranger with kind eyes than be alone on the road one more night. It is the bravest thing anyone has ever said to me. It was a vow before I had earned a vow. And tomorrow, when we stand in front of the pack, I am not going to say anything new. I am going to say what you said to me first, because you said it first, because I am only saying it back." She kissed him, slowly, and the bond between them sang. The binding ceremony was held in the meadow under a moon so full and so bright that the grass cast a second shadow. The whole pack came. The 14 who had been Blackwood, the 6 who were now Hollow, Esme with her tired eyes a little less tired, Harlow with her grey eyes red and bright, Nessa in the long grey dress she had not worn since Aaron Blackwood's mate had been alive, Jory holding the hands of the 2 pack children who had touched Wren's mark on her first morning. There was no priest. There was the moon and the pack, and an old word in the old tongue that Nessa spoke once, softly, the way a key turns in an old lock. Callum took both of Wren's hands. "Wren Avery, I take you, not because the bond chose, because I am choosing, every day from this one to my last. I take you when you are bright. I take you when you are tired. I take you in this pack. I take you in any place we end up. I take you when the world is good to us. I take you most of all when it is not. I would rather belong to a stranger with kind eyes than be alone on the road one more night. You said that to me first. I'm saying it back. The kind eyes were yours." Wren was crying. Half the pack was crying. "Callum Blackwood, I take you. The first night I met you, you stepped out of the trees, and you saw me before you knew my name. No one had ever done that. No one in 24 years. I thought I was asking for a door that locks. I was asking, it turns out, for a man to come home to. I take you in this hollow. I take you in any hollow. I take you when you grieve your father out loud, and I take you on the nights you cannot. I take you with the bond and without it. I am the Luna in this hollow now, and there is no one I would rather be the Luna for than you." He bent his head. He kissed the silver mark at her throat very softly, the same place he had bit her in the road. The bond rang like a bell. Around them, every wolf in the pack put a fist briefly to their own chest at exactly the same moment, and the moon shone on them, and a small wind moved through the meadow, and for the first time in 7 years the hollow had a Luna and an Alpha who had chosen each other in front of everyone, and the land knew. 2 seasons later, in the spring, Wren stood at the edge of the meadow with her hand resting on the small new round of her belly, and watched Callum teach Jory how to throw an axe. Jory was getting better. He was still not very good. Callum was patient with him. Harlow was on the porch braiding the youngest child's hair. Esme was in the meadow with Nessa, kneeling at the base of the 2 saplings they had planted in the fall. Both of them taller now, both of them leafing out, both of them named. Rhett walked up beside her. He did not speak for a long time. He was Rhett. He did not have to. "Luna. Rhett, are you going to tell him today? Tonight? He is going to fall over." "I know." She smiled. Rhett smiled, which was a rare event. "I am happy for you," he said simply. "Both of you, all 3 of you. Thank you." He nodded once. He walked off toward Callum, and Wren stood at the edge of the meadow with her hand on her belly and felt the very small, very new pull of a third bond beginning to thread itself through her sternum, alongside the one to Callum, alongside the one to the pack, a small, steady tug, a heart beginning. She thought about a girl on a bus with $37 and nowhere to go. She thought about a woman she had never met, who had run and given a baby to humans and trusted the long thread of fate to carry her daughter back to where she was always meant to be. She thought about a man with amber eyes who had stepped out of the trees and said, "Walk away," in a voice you could not disobey. She thought about a hearth. She thought about a door that locks. She thought about how the door had turned out to be a person, And the person had turned out to be a home, and the home had turned out to have room for more than she had ever dared to ask for. She put her other hand over the silver mark at her throat. It was warm. It was always warm now. It was the warmth of her mother's blood, and her own choosing, and the small new heart inside her, and the sleek, dark wolf that lived behind her ribs, and the alpha across the meadow, who was walking toward her now, having seen something on her face he did not yet have a name for. He stopped in front of her. He looked at her hand on her belly. He looked at her face. He did not say anything for a long second. Then his amber eyes filled, and his mouth tilted into the not-quite smile that had been his first smile, and he laid his hand over hers, very gently. "Wren Avery." "Yes," she said, "it is what you think." He closed his eyes. He pressed his forehead to hers. The bond between them and the pack, the bond between them and the new little life inside her, all of it hummed at once, low and bright and unbreakable. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For getting on the bus," she laughed. The tears came after the laughing. "For getting off it," she said, "for asking, for saying yes, for meaning it." He kissed the silver mark at her throat. He kissed her hand. He kissed the place under her hand where the small new heart was beating. The pack on the porch was watching, because in a small pack everyone always knows everything within 5 minutes, and they were all already smiling, and Harlow was already wiping her eyes and pretending she was not, and Nessa was already calculating how many onesies she could finish by autumn. The trees moved in the spring wind. The hollow held them. The pack was something new. The Luna was small and steady and full of silver, and the Alpha was tall and tired and full of the kind of joy that only ever lives in men who have lost too much and been given back more than they thought they were allowed to keep. And the road that had ended at the last stop in Hemlock Hollow, the road that Wren Avery had stepped off of with $37 and nowhere to go, had not ended at all. It had only changed names. It had become a hearth, and the hearth, in the end, had become a home, and the home had a door. It locked from the inside. It had a man with amber eyes leaning against the frame of it. It had a Luna with silver under her skin standing in the middle of it. It had a small new heart growing inside her. It had a pack on the porch. It had a moon coming up over the trees, and it would be there every night for the rest of their long lives, lit and warm and waiting for whoever came home. And so Wren Blackwood became the Luna of the Hollow Pack. But 3 days after the binding moon, Callum took his bride on a honeymoon that cannot be told here. What happened at Crescent Lake cannot be said on this platform. If listeners want to know how the Alpha and his Luna spent their first nights as husband and wife, the link is pinned in the comments below. Drop amber if listeners stayed until the end.